Hello, Alden. Wow, this video looks weird. My face looks like weird on this camera. Let's just ignore that. Okay, I'm about to get ready to go to the gym, and since I don't know what time you're going to go to bed or how our voice calling will work, if it does work, I'm going to tell you a story so that you can listen to this as you are falling asleep after you are done with whatever you and mommy do. So, I don't know an idea for a story, so I'm just going to walk around the house and I'm going to see two things. Okay, first thing, flower. Second thing, remote control. And third thing shall be banana. So I have to work in, I've got a twitch in my eyes. Okay, it's been a long day. But I made a ton of progress on the Daddy All on Vacation video that I would like you both to see when it's done. But anyway, so I have to work in flower, remote control, and banana into this story. Once upon a time, in a land not so far away, there was a boy named Alden. And he just happened to be 7 years old, which I assure you is a complete coincidence, and this story is not based on you. And for his 7th birthday, he said, "Daddy, I would love if you could procure me a flower that never dies." And his daddy thought long and hard about that, and he said, "Well, there's flowers that come back every year. Those don't die. If we dried out a flower and put it inside of an airtight book, you could say it died, but it never went away." But none of those things rang true to him, and he thought, I'll just get a plastic flower. But even though he reasoned that it technically couldn't die because it was never alive, he felt like that was a bit of a cheat. So he decided to go on a quest for his son because he did not want his birthday to be a letdown. So he went to the library and studied far and wide about an immortal flower and found nothing. Now keep in mind this was a public library, so most of the books were rubbish. However, he did find something later that night when he went to get ice cream. He was walking around downtown while his boy was asleep, and he saw a strange bookshop, the likes that he had never seen before. Where all of the other buildings were brick and modern glass and steel, this one was made of old wood. It looked as if it were a birchwood plank that had been sandpapered and weathered a little bit. And the sign merely said, "Marco's Emporium." So Daddy opened the door, and it had a huge crank as the door opened, and he walked inside, and a little bell jingled behind him. It smelled musty in the shop and old. It was not a delightful smell, let me tell you. There was also the faint smell of poop in the background. But that could have just been many of the old wares, because as Daddy looked around on the shelves, he noticed strange old creatures that looked like mixes between squirrels and rabbits and many other things. Anyway, he asked the gentleman, who was very old with a long wispy white beard and bloodshot eyes. He asked the gentleman, "Say, is this by any chance a shop that sells magical wares or perhaps unusual wares?" And the gentleman merely said, "Why, yes, our wares are magical and unusual, but I caution you not to buy anything you don't understand, for there could be unforeseen consequences." And Daddy said, "Well, do you by any chance have something that could make a flower live forever, or a flower that already lives forever?" And the gentleman rubbed his wispy white beard and said, "I don't believe that I have anything of that nature that would meet your needs. However, I do have something." And the old man opened a creaky old door that was half falling apart and hanging off of one hinge and went into the back room. And Daddy could hear the sounds of thunking and banging and even the sounds of a couple mice and rats, which deeply alarmed him because there were restaurants all around. However, soon the man emerged holding something that Daddy did not expect: a banana. And the old man said, "This is the banana of infinite life. And Daddy said, the banana of infinite life. Are you trying to pull a fast one on me? And the gentleman simply said, well, hear me. It has been said that whoever consumes this banana will be able to breathe life onto one object and cause it to live forever. Daddy said, wait. Why wouldn't somebody just use this on another human? And the gentleman said, oh, well, humans don't live forever and you wouldn't want to. And trust me, one has tried and he lived his days cursed. Daddy thought, okay, that's ominous. And he said, how much is the banana? And the gentleman said, well, all I need is one remote control. Daddy said, remote? What? Remote control? What kind of remote control? And the gentleman said, a remote control of any kind. It matters not to me, for it is only an ingredient for a spell that I am working on. Daddy was feeling very creeped out right now, but he went out to his car, rummaged around in the trunk, and found an old remote control that was used actually for his remote control fart sound machine that had long since broken. He didn't even know why it was in the back of his car. But he realized, okay, I can get behind this remote control fart machine. I don't need it. So he went in, gave the old man the remote, and the old man handed him the banana and said, use it wisely. So Daddy left, and he got down the street, and he turned around, and the shop was gone. Not only was there no wooden shop, there was no sign. In its place was the Crangula newsstand that only sold vintage newspapers from the 1920s, exclusively ones that talked about Barbie dolls and strange Lego contraptions. So Daddy thought, okay, this is very alarming. However, this is a magical banana. And as such, if it is a magical banana, it will probably work because this person disappeared. So he rushed home and he found Alden's favorite flower, which was in the backyard. In fact, it was a flower that they had picked upon a hike. And he ate the banana and it was not very ripe. And as such, it was disgusting. Wow, look at my forehead. And he breathed life onto the flower. And strangely enough, he saw these little blue wisps come trailing out of his mouth, and they surrounded the flower. And the flower briefly glowed, and then nothing. So Daddy thought, yes, I did it. I got the immortal flower that's going to live forever. So he didn't want to say anything, because his birthday, was a couple days away. His 8th birthday was a couple days away, and he didn't want to spoil the surprise. And he looked out every day. It was hot, it was dry, and the flower looked fantastic. In fact, it was greener and it was growing bigger than it ever had before. So he watched and he waited until the day of Alden's birthday. And then he took Alden outside and said, here's your present. This flower is going to live forever. And Alden said, what on earth are you talking about? That makes no sense. You can't really give me that present, Daddy. And Daddy said, just watch. And so Daddy and Alden, they took it and put it in a flower pot and brought it inside. And much to their surprise, day after day, even as the summer progressed into the fall, and the fall into the gentle silence of winter, and the winter into the comforting activity of spring and the heat of summer, the flower lived and it survived, and it grew. It didn't get too tall, but it was fine. However, there was one problem with the flower. 1 year after they planted it, it started to talk. At first, it just mumbled strange, nonsensical phrases like "hebijabija" or "krembalabajabajaba." But over time, it started to speak, and the things it said were not always totally appropriate. For instance, one evening when Alden had his friend Muchambam over, who was an elephant man, it was a man with elephant skin, the flower said, "Your skin looks dumb." And Alden went, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Muchambam." And Daddy said, "Flower, what are you doing?" And the flower said, "Don't you sass-mouth me, boy." And Daddy said, "That's it, you're going in timeout," and put him under the cupboard. And the whole night long under the cupboard, they could hear it screaming and yelling about how unfair it was. It said a few cuss words, bad words, words that you shouldn't ever say. And then it got quiet. And the next day they took it out and the flower said, "I'm sorry." And Alden said, "How are you talking?" And Daddy said, "Yeah, what?" And the flower said, "Well, I'm a living flower. I'm an immortal flower. I learned to talk. I've been watching you guys. I got this thing down." And all day, every day, the flower would not stop talking. It would talk about the paint on the walls. It would talk about what the shape of the leaves on the tree was. It would count the planks on the deck outside. It would look at the sky and complain about the smoke. It would give Daddy critiquing on his cooking. It would tell Alden to do his homework even when he had already done it. It would not stop all day, every day. So Daddy and Alden left the house, and they had a discussion like, what are we going to do about this thing? And then they came up with a brilliant plan. So Alden came up with a list of phone numbers of people that were evil and mean, people who weren't nice, people who ran businesses that ripped people off, basically anybody bad that you could ever think of. Meanwhile, Daddy went into his elite computer coding skills and started making an app. In fact, one might say he crapped it out. That was far superior to Chipotle's app. Let's just put it that way. But anyway, this app, you could give it a list of phone numbers and it would just dial one after the other and stay online for 10 minutes and then hang up and do it again. So he put his app, he loaded all of the phone numbers that Alden had came up with, which was about 100,000 phone numbers, if you believe it. And he loaded it up and then he set it by the flower. And they told the flower, look, these are bad people. You got to harass them. You got to make them pay for what they've done. So the first, one called up, and it was Mr. Gerbil John's pet shop. And apparently he sold pets that were very sick and died the next day afterwards, after they bought them. And he said, "Hello, Gerbil John's." And then the flower said, "Hey, word on the street is that you've been punking people out of their pets. Well, you know what I have to say to you? You are a bad man. Oh, yeah, you're a bad man." And it went on for like 5 minutes. Gerbil John tried to get in a word edgewise, but believe you me, the flower would not allow such a thing to happen. And this went on for days, and then weeks, and then months. And finally, the flower got through the list of all 100,000 people. And so Alden made another list, and Daddy helped him write a computer program to do that. And eventually, the crime rate started going down, and there were less people stealing. And the world actually became a happier place because they had a weird immortal flower that was prank calling bad people and making them feel guilty about their bad and evil ways. And that is the story of the immortal flower. And by the way, Daddy and Alden got old and died, but they kept teaching their children and their children's children how to keep the flower of justice going. And over time, this flower truly helped make the world a better place. Alden, this is your first story. Let me know if you would like me to continue doing this when you are away from home. I would be happy to. It's actually kind of fun, and it makes me feel nice. I don't know if I'll talk to you tonight because I have no idea how the video calling works on your Kindle thingy. So if it doesn't work, I just wanted to send you this and tell you I love you very much. You are my favorite person in the world. I'm making great progress on our Daddy and Alden video, and I want you to be really, really good for Mommy because she's having a hard time right now, and I just want you to be really nice and considerate to her. I love you. Have a good night. Bye.